the first things is that I think they're both trying to create official spaces within the academy, within K through 12 schools, official spaces where marginalized voices, where subordinated perspectives can come to the front, and that they're both fundamentally concerned with raising consciousness. But beyond raising consciousness, I think what they also share is that they're also fundamentally concerned with the achievement, the educational achievement and attainment of students from groups that have been systematically denied or shut out of American society. That would be one thing that I concretely see. Let me see. Another overlap, or intersection as you call it, or another thing they share, I think, is that both see pedagogy. If you look at the differing programs, the differing courses, the differing departments even that have materialized in the form of ethnic studies, I think what you will find is that they've all understood that pedagogy, that instruction, if you will, the more limited notion of pedagogy, has to be done very differently. If for the mission of an ethnic studies, for the mission of a decolonizing pedagogy to be successful, I think the pedagogical approach needs to be radically different. It has to be something that understands that the relationship between students and their instructors, between teacher-student, student-teacher, has to be one that's built on trust, has to be one that's built on a deep concern and caring for the well-being of the student, that nothing above the well-being of the student, of their humanization, to use Freudian terms, that nothing would be more important than that. That's also a place where I think both of these, again, like I said, both of these bodies of thought, both of these conceptions of instruction, both of these projects, if you will, share. Let me see, what else? Colonialism, without a doubt. From its very inception, I think ethnic studies wanted to highlight our colonial past in this society. It wanted to highlight how differing racial groups were positioned because of colonialism. And it wanted to highlight and bring to the forefront within the official curriculum that those colonial relations that were set up hundreds of years ago have played out into the present, that they're not fully gone. And decolonizing pedagogy certainly shares that with it. I mean, that is why, for example, when we began thinking about what we would call, what we were beginning to think of, we didn't call it critical pedagogy exclusively, although that's another body of work that we're fundamentally informed by. But we called it decolonizing because we thought that we needed to bring to the forefront the colonial history, and that we needed to highlight that the history, not that the history so much, but that the actual relations and the type of practices, while they have definitely changed and been legally forced to change, still play out in the present. I mean, if in Southern California is a perfect example. If you didn't know any better, you could easily believe that there's an apartheid system if you simply look at who's doing what work, who occupies what positions in the Southern California context. So that's definitely another place where I think ethnic studies and our conception of decolonizing pedagogy overlap. And another concrete one that I think is a super important one, given the emerging struggle to get ethnic studies, to insert ethnic studies into the official curriculum, is that both work from the perspective that you are trying to do two things simultaneously in the official spaces of schooling in American society. You're trying to develop a critical consciousness, a deep understanding that equips students of color and non-students of color to understand how the history of this society that position different groups in different locations is far from over, and that you're not going to reach anything along the lines of some form of social justice or equitable democratic participation without accounting for that history and how it plays out in the present. So they both have a fundamental mission of creating a critical consciousness, but they also have, I think, at least in many, a lot of the iterations of ethnic studies that I've seen, is that they're also simultaneously and fundamentally concerned with ensuring that students of color are prepared academically within the official curriculum. They're prepared to excel at the highest levels. We understand that schooling is, I think, like ethnic studies has always understood, decolonizing pedagogy understands that schooling is a gatekeeper. You're no longer going to find no Mexican signs, no Mexicans allowed signs hanging on the entrance of universities or even just positions in society, but you will find that schooling is as a criteria by which you're measured in order to gain access to those spaces. So that would be probably another area, a very fundamental area where I think these two overlap.